Today's the day. We get to finally put this thing to the test. We've been looking at it for a little over a month now, all that nice shiny paint. And today we get to find out what this thing is all about. All right, we've been looking at this Bourgualt. Yes, it is Bourgualt. It's not Bourgault. I appreciate all the viewers on YouTube correcting my pronunciation of this Canadian business. It is Bourgualt. But yes, we've been looking at this Bourgualt CD872 for close to a month now and haven't had a chance to use it yet. Now that our corn is out of the way, we're ready to start planting some cover crops. We finally got the opportunity to take this beast to the field and find out exactly what it's capable of. And I'm gonna make a series of videos on this particular piece of equipment for people that might not know anything about this particular air seeder and want to learn about it. So watch these videos and you'll get to learn about this machine as I learn about this machine, because to be frank with you, this is a completely foreign animal to me. You know, we've been running a box drill for years. Very nice, very simple. Never had the opportunity to run anything remotely close to this, so this is going to be a huge learning experience for us. So if we mess up, we say something wrong, just please realize we're learning about this machine as we film, so we're bound to make some mistakes. But Bourgualt has been generous enough to let us demo this thing this fall on planting cover crops and planting our wheat. They're wanting to see how this particular machine works in our environment. You know, historically these have been seen mainly out west, up north in Canada, a lot more dry, arid environments with perhaps not as much residue to cut through, and they want to see how it performs under our situations and potentially, you know, break into the southeastern market. So this video is going to cover my initial impressions of the machine, you know, what I like, and then more importantly what I don't like. Now as I use this machine this fall, you know, these impressions could change, but this is going to be my impressions just at looking at the machine, looking how it's designed and how I think that it could potentially operate in our environment. All right, first thing I want to cover right now is this thing an air seeder or is it a planter? Well, actually, it can be both of them. This machine is the most well-designed and complex machine with so many different configurations. I probably can't even hope to list all of them right now. Yes, basically it is an air seeder. That's what it was designed to do first and foremost. Right now this tank has 3 separate compartments in it, so you can do multiple things. You can put out fertilizer, you can put out 2 different kinds of seed. You can tie 2 of those tanks together to make it a 2-tank configuration and be able to carry more seed or more fertilizer on board. But like I said, not only is this thing an air seeder, it can also be an air planter. Up here on front, we've got a very unique design. We've got some singulating meters up here. Just like with a traditional planter, you got your plates here inside the meter. They're all electrically driven. So you got variable rate control, and instead of using vacuum like traditional planters do, this uses positive air pressure to hold the seed to the plate and then eject it. This machine right here is the 30-foot model. Believe it also comes in 26-foot models, and they also have a different number. I can't remember the number, but you can get it into, you can get down 20-foot model. You got different row spacing configurations that you can do. This one is set up on 7.5 inch. With this model, you can do 7.5 inch spacing, you can do 10-inch spacing, or you could even do 12-inch spacing. But also, if that doesn't suit exactly your needs, you can just use one rank right here and you can do 15-inch spacing, or you can do 20-inch spacing. Now if you want to do the air planter part, You got several different configurations on it. This one right here is set up to do singulating on 30-inch spacing using the front ranks, but only using every other unit on the front ranks. So you want to try a little bit of corn on some 30-inch rows, you can do it with this machine. And a lot of this is configurable just depending on how you order the machine with the spacing that you want. You know, maybe those row spacings don't work for you. You can also do 20-inch spacing and even potentially 40-inch spacing. That's something that they're working on, not currently offered as of this moment, but something they're working on. If you want to do 20-inch spacing, order the model that's got 10-inch spacing, and you'll use every unit on the front to singulate on 20-inch rows. And like I said, right now they're working on the possibility of doing 40-inch spacing. So if you're a cotton grower, a small grain grower, this could potentially be an all-in-one machine. Right now they're working on some cotton plates, and they're also working on the singulating part to be able to do just like this 7.5-inch model and do every other unit to give you 40-inch spacing if you order the model with 10-inch spacing as opposed to 7.5-inch. So like I said, the row spacing configuration can probably be configured to exactly what you want for your farm to plant multiple different crops, not just small grains or cover crops. Corn definitely is right now a possibility. Cotton could potentially be a possibility. Right now they got plates for grain sorghum. You can do sunflowers with it. You can do soybeans with it, all through the singulating part. So if you want more accuracy than what is basically a controlled spill, which is what a drill or air seeder is, you can get the singulating part and get a lot more accuracy in your seed metering. All right, now I've covered the seeding part. What else can we do with this machine? Well, we've got a third row of ranks up here. These are called the mid-row banders. You want to apply starter fertilizer in between your 7.5-inch rows, you can do it right here. Now that's dry fertilizer that will be coming from one of your compartments on the tank. You can also configure this where one tank holds your seed, one tank holds your starter fertilizer that you want beside the row. Say you want to put some in-furrow dry fertilizer in. Third tank, and it's possible to run in-furrow fertilizer with your seed too. However, in this part of the world, dry starter fertilizer is generally not done. I don't really know of anybody that's doing it. Liquid starter fertilizer is what the majority of growers around here prefer. You can do that too. Now that's going to require a tow behind tank, but this machine with its seed boots and everything is already set up for liquid fertilizer. So you could do a combination of liquid starter fertilizer, dry starter fertilizer, your seed, up to 2 different types of seed. I mean, the possibilities are only limited by your imagination and how exotic you want to get with your planting capabilities and, you know, precise seed placement and fertilizer placement. And because all of your rate control is right here underneath your tanks that is hydraulically driven, you can do variable rate, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's seed or whatnot. You're not limited to just one flat rate. The possibilities are completely endless. Now that I've very briefly covered what this machine is capable of doing, what do I like about the machine? What do I not like about the machine? Well, some of my likes and dislikes kind of go hand in hand. When you're dealing with a machine this size, you know, to gain in one area, you might have to sacrifice in another area. My number one like with this machine, other than the almost infinite capability of configuring this machine, is the transport width. Here in West Tennessee, we've got, for the most part, fairly narrow roads, windy roads going through trees and, you know, even potentially subdivisions and cities and everything. And modern equipment has gotten extremely large and extremely wide, and transporting equipment is probably the number one causer of stress on our farm every year. Now, while we've got a 30-foot model right here in transport mode, this thing is only 11 feet wide. It's actually narrower than what my tractor is going down the road. So, I mean, it'll fit in a single lane of traffic without having to pull over or anything. You know, your traditional air seeders in this area, your John Deere, your Case IH, in transport position, they're probably somewhere around 20 feet wide. They can kind of be a bear going down the road. This machine, extremely narrow transport width. However, that comes as a sacrifice. With a narrower transport width, you also get a taller transport width. So with this thing folded up, I think 15 feet 2 inches is the height on this machine. So low hanging limbs, low hanging power lines, especially around the cities and subdivisions that we work in, could potentially be an issue and something we need to be aware of as we're transporting this machine. Now, another problem with the extremely narrow transport width, you know, what happens when you go narrower but taller, especially with a machine that weighs this much? You get top heavy. I can see this being a concern with us going down the road, especially with the transport tires that we've got back here. These tires right here are 770 R38s. They're good, really good flotation tires. However, at the recommended PSI of I think 12 pounds, as you can see, there's a good bit of squat to them. And with radial tires at lower PSI, you know, the stability, as when this thing is folded up, it's kind of going to want to rock side to side. Also, we're going to have to be very careful in kind of any off-camber situations. You know, pulling into a field, if it leans one way or the other, this thing is extremely top heavy, especially when you're running low PSI in the tires. One improvement I think that could be made to this to kind of offset this is to maybe have some kind of onboard air compressor to where you can, from the tractor, you can air up the tires for transport and then let air out of the tires for field working conditions and less compaction. I have noticed pulling this thing just around the gin yard with tires at full PSI, it doesn't rock as much. It feels a lot more secure when it's folded up. However, if I leave it like that in the field, could definitely lead to more compaction, which we don't want. This machine is heavy. I think this one is somewhere in the ballpark of 35,000 pounds. So it's a heavy beast. But when you're building something for longevity and to build it to be very robust and strong, that requires more steel. More steel creates a lot of weight. So it's kind of trade-off. Do you want something that is heavy built, but it's heavy in transport, or do you want something that's lighter built, maybe easier to transport, easier on the soil, but then you could also have problems with frames cracking and everything else, and the longevity is not there. So, like I said, with every benefit, there's going to kind of be a trade-off. However, I think in my opinion, the very narrow transport width is going to be a greater benefit than the stability going down the road. We're just going to have to make sure that we take it easy with a tractor going down the road. We're not going to be able to run full speed. But for us, you know, our farthest field is going to be 8 miles. That's not going to be an issue. Now, what we're pulling this air seeder with is a New Holland T7.270. It's one step smaller than your Case IH Magnum series or your John Deere 8R or 8000 series. It's a step smaller than your Fendt 9000 series. So, you know, ideally I would like to have a bigger tractor to pull this thing with, something that is heavier and maybe gives a little bit more stability, especially when transporting this thing down the road. We do have a full weight package on this tractor, and in the field this tractor won't have any problem at all pulling this drill, you know, probably 6.5 miles an hour. Like I said, where it's going to kind of be iffy is going down the road because this tractor is a little bit lighter. Now we're going to change the configuration up on this drill a little bit to help the tractor. Right now we've got the drill mounted to the lift arms right here. You've got two different mounting options. You can either put a drawbar hitch on there to put it on the drawbar, or you can use your lift arms. What I found out, if you had just a regular drawbar hitch on here, this is where your pin would go. And then looking here with the lift arms, you see how much further back that gets your connection point to the drill, farther back here, versus where if you had your hitch right here and then mounted to your drawbar. And what's that doing is all of this tongue weight Think 13,500 pounds when it's in the transport position is your tongue weight. All of that tongue weight is getting shifted farther back, putting more leverage on the tractor and making the front end significantly lighter. With it in the transport position, pulling it around the yard here and steering, there's not a lot of weight on those front tires, and steering is an issue, and I can only imagine how much more of an issue it's going to be going down the road with the front end not really touching the ground. So we're going to swap out the lift arms right here and put the drawbar on, get that connection point up closer to the rear of the tractor, and it should really improve the stability of the tractor. Now, when I say 13,500 pounds on your tongue weight, that's only with it in the transport position. When it's in the field position, you've got your gauge wheel tires that's carrying a lot of the weight, and it's so much easier to pull around when it's unfolded. But with it folded up, with a little bit smaller than ideal tractor, it can get a little hairy. Now, if you got a bigger frame tractor, I don't see this issue being quite as much as what it is with this tractor. Now, another issue that we're having with our tractor is hydraulic flow. You can imagine this seeder here, with everything that's going on, requires a lot of hydraulic flow. With it in the, just using the air seeder part, we're using one blower fan, and then, you know, we've got active down pressure on the row units themselves. Each row unit has got its own hydraulic cylinder that picks up each row unit individually there. So with it configured like this, not using the mid-row banders, just using both ranks of the planter units and the vacuum fan, is going to max out the hydraulic capacity on this tractor, which is around 45 gallons per minute. So even though I'm not going to need the horsepower going through the field, when it comes to the end and all of these units have to raise up, we're going to need full hydraulic flow, and we're going to have to run the engine pretty much wide open to get that full hydraulic flow. Now, you're a little bit more modern tractors, your bigger tractors, this is not going to be near as much of an issue. But if you want to run the mid-row banders and the singulators right here, the singulators themselves require 2 additional fans to run, and I think your total hydraulic requirements come around 80 to 85 gallons per minute. No chance of doing that with this tractor. Now, the newer tractors like the Fence with the dual pumps, I think are capable of somewhere around 120 gallons per minute. So your newer tractors, your bigger tractors can pull this. My tractor, I'd have to make some modifications, maybe some kind of external hydraulic pump on the tractor. Don't exactly know how that'd work. I do know things like that are available. So, you know, there for those of y'all with older equipment with less hydraulic flow, there are solutions. It's just going to add to the cost and the complexity of the machine. So I was hoping during wheat planting that maybe I'd be able to put out my dry fertilizer with this and not have to run a separate tractor and fertilizer buggy to apply our dry fertilizer, but I just don't think that that's going to be possible with my tractor the way it's configured right now. All right, looking at one of my favorite aspects of this drill that really gives it a unique design that I don't think anybody else has got is the opener system here. Now, your traditional grain drills, you know, the disc opener is going to be slanted that way. It's not going to be a straight slice. It's going to be slanted that way with a bevel side to the inside of the furrow. And what that does is that slices through the residue and into the ground and kicks dirt out this way to actually create a seed trench that your seed boot then drops a seed into the trench. This one is different, and I think might really help us in our high residue systems, especially, you know, planting cover crops behind a 200 bushel corn crop. If you can see, I'm holding the camera horizontal. If you can see, this disc right here is not straight up and down like traditional disc is. It's got what they call a compound angle. Not only is it slanted this way, it's also from vertical slanted this way, I think 7 degrees. And what that's supposed to do is, this thing, the disc opener, is really not designed to kick dirt out and make a seed trench. It's designed to kind of slice through, go up under the surface of the soil and create a pocket that the seed boot then drops seed into. And then your packing wheel right here is not traditional either. Most of the other, like Case IH and John Deere grain drills have an angled packing wheel here to then throw dirt back over to the seed trench. Well, since this disc opener is not really moving dirt and creating a seed trench, it's creating a pocket that then the surface of soil then falls back down on top of the seed. This packing wheel right here is vertical and just provides down pressure to firm the ground over the top of the seed. So this type of drill has a lower ground disturbance than what your traditional drill does, which where this machine is designed for, the really arid environments out west, you want as low a disturbance as possible so you don't lose as much soil moisture. But I also think that this design is really going to aid us in slicing through the residue to get a lot better seed placement than what we would see over your more traditional design. But theoretically, I think that's going to work, but we're going to put this to the test. We've got a John Deere 1560 box drill, very well maintained with a lot of Needham Ag aftermarket parts. We've gotten excellent performance out of it in the past, and we're actually going to run that drill side by side with this drill in a field and see what the difference in seed placement is, and then come back after a month or so and see what the germination rate is on the John Deere design and this Bourgualt design, to see if maybe we are getting better seed placement. We're getting more seed in the ground when we're dealing with a whole lot of residue on top of the ground. All right, looking at other features that I really like is this seed boot design right here. It looks about like a traditional seed boot, maybe a little bit narrower and less bulky, but it is permanently fixed right here. It is not spring loaded to come out. And I can't speak for the Case IH design because I've never used it, but I know the John Deere design, this was a very weak link in them. Where the John Deere is mounted, the boot can pivot in and out, and it's got a leaf spring in there that can be problematic and you got to replace, but it also creates a very big wear point up here on the shank that cannot really be fixed unless you replace the shank. However, there are several aftermarket designs to alleviate that. And now I've looked at quite a few drills in the past, and I can't recall a single used John Deere drill that I've come across that did not have a ton of slop and where that seed boot mounts. You could just take it and go back and forth, and that's going to dramatically affect your seed placement. And like I said, I have not seen a single used drill that did not need a complete overhaul on the seed boot design on the John Deere. But with this Bourgualt design, there is, that eliminates that potential problem right there, which I really like. Now, I mentioned the tank design. We've got 3 separate tanks right here, and it can be configured to where this middle tank either goes into the first tank or the second tank to increase capacity if you're only wanting to run 2 products. And looking at this chart right here, we've got the 872. We've got a total capacity of 204 bushels. But if we got tank 1, which is the front one, a capacity of 61 bushels, the middle tank of 38 bushels, or tank number 3, which is the biggest, at 105 bushels. Now we've got it configured for where tank 2 and tank 3 are joined together, so that's going to give us a total capacity of 143 bushels that we can hold in the tank. And that gives you a little bit closer look at how the tanks are actually designed. This tank 2 can be configured to either go into tank 1 or tank 3. Tank 4 is a small optional tank that goes on the very back here. But if you want that 4th tank, you cannot have the singulating part on there because it mounts right here where this rear singulating fan is going to go. So that's one small limitation there. Now, filling this machine could potentially be a chore because the tank lids are way up there. But to aid in that, They've got an auger here that can be operated by one person. It works off the tractor hydraulics there, and anyway, it's pretty easy to unfold, and it's got a hopper that goes on the ground that you can fill up through there. And you know, the drop hose will then go in the tank. I don't really think we'll be using this that much because I've got a really good deal with our vendors, and like our cover crop seed, they just brought it out in a fertilizer tender truck, which we can then just auger directly into the tank. The same way with my wheat seed, they typically bring it out in another fertilizer tender, and we can do the same thing. So I don't really expect that we'll be using this much, but if you got a lot of seed, say in a hopper bottom trailer, this is going to be ideal for that, or even a dump trailer, this will be ideal for filling this drill up. Another feature that I really like is that the amount of serviceability on this drill. On literally every pivot point on this drill, there are grease fittings. Literally every place that it pivots. You know, even your bearings on your press wheels here. The only places that have sealed bearings that you cannot grease is, I guess this is really your press wheel, whereas this is your packing wheel. Your press wheel and your disc openers. Literally everything else can be greased, all of your pivot points. And that's what I like. That's another big wear point on the John Deere system. You know, all of your pivot points for your packing wheel arms, your row unit shanks and everything, you know, they just got bushings in there that wear over time because they cannot be lubricated. So I like the fact that we can lubricate this to really extend the life of the planter. Now, perhaps the most important thing, what I don't like about this drill. You know, a lot of people still call me relatively young, even though I don't necessarily feel it, and I don't really know a way to get around this, but we got a whole lot going on in here, and I'm not the gymnast that I used to be when I was a kid, and crawling over this thing to adjust the depths. Now, adjusting the depths is easy, but crawling over all of these hoses and toolbar and everything to adjust the depths on the front rank does not really appeal to me. The back rank's going to be a lot easier, but I think what I would love to see on this drill is some kind of catwalk on the wings right here that I could crawl across and then, you know, reach down and adjust the openers. Be a whole lot easier and a lot safer for me than having to crawl across all of this. We just had a nice little catwalk or platform going down that way. I think that would really help. And if you're familiar with our farm, you know, we've always got one eye on the future. We're not a farm that trades equipment every couple of years and gets new equipment. When we get a piece of equipment, we keep that equipment a long time. We overhaul it, sometimes multiple times. So looking at this, even though it's very well built, there's a lot of serviceability in it. I mean, eventually things are going to wear out on it, namely your disc openers, your gauge wheels, all that kind of stuff. And one design benefit of John Deere that I really love is that all of their row units are mounted to a rock shaft, and the rock shaft is what pivots to let the row units down. And the joy about that is that it's mounted on each end with 2 bolts. It's got a couple of clamps in the middle held up by 2 bolts. And anyway, you drop those bolts down and the whole rock shaft and unit assemblies and everything fall to the ground. And then you can pull that whole rock shaft with all those units, you can pull it out, and then if you want to work on it, you can suspend that rock shaft from a forklift or a front end loader, and then everything is right there, right about chest level, and you can get to everything to take it apart. Because when you're on 7.5 inch spacing, all this stuff is squeezed in together, and just trying to work on it and constantly bending over, having to get up under the middle and everything to access bolts or whatever else can be problematic. Now with John Deere, like I said, you can drop a whole rank of gangs right there, pull it out, suspend it, work on it. It makes life so much easier. With this, it's not going to be possible to do that. You got to work on it as it sits right here. So when it comes time to replace all this stuff, which it will come time, that does not seem very appealing to me. So I would like to see a different design to where you could quickly remove a whole rank of units and pull them out and work on them while they're not on the drill. However, the wear life on these units should be longer than John Deere. The disc openers are, I think, 2 inches larger diameter than what John Deere is. So you're going to be able to get across more acres before it is finally time to overhaul this stuff. I also absolutely love the gauge wheels here. I love this spoke design, and why every manufacturer does not offer these as standard equipment, I don't know. I do not ever want to see another solid gauge wheel on any planter or drill again. I love this spoke design. On our drill, we actually outfitted our John Deere drill with these spoke gauge wheels from Needham Ag, and we absolutely love them. You know, we typically can plant into some wet conditions, and with the solid wheels, you always got mud packing up behind there that would be a complete bear to clean out at the end of the season. But with the spoke design, it lets the mud come right out. Serviceability of replacing this bearing is so much easier. You don't have to break the 2 wheel halves apart to replace the bearing. I absolutely love this spoke design, and every manufacturer should include them on their equipment from here on out. There's no excuse not to. Another feature that I really love about this drill is how easy it is to calibrate. Now, I've got a video on our channel of how we typically calibrate a box drill or an air seeder drill, and it involves tying the sock around the hose going to the seed tube, and then driving forward so many feet, capturing the seed that was collected in that sock and weighing it out and performing some calculations to get drills calibrated extremely accurately. But that does take quite a bit of time. It is possible to get extremely accurate that way, but again, it does take time. This drill you calibrate a different way. Now on this drill, we got the bottom of the tank, we've got the hydraulic motor on the one side, and then we've got an auger inside of this tube right here that augers it down to your air seed delivery pipe right here. Now to calibrate this drill, all we do, undo that clamp, pull that hose off, stick it in this little funnel here. They've got buckets already provided right here. You take one of these buckets, stick it up under the outlet of this funnel right here, and then you go into your monitor and you prime the system. You run it for so many seconds or whatever. And included with this drill is a scale right here. You know, you hang the scale somewhere on the tank back here, and then weigh your bucket, and it'll tell you how many pounds is in your bucket. You go put that in your monitor, and bam, it's calibrated. And then I recommend doing 1 or 2 checks after that, just to do a little fine tuning and make sure you're putting out the exact rate that you want to. But I absolutely love that calibration feature. All right, now I've talked enough about the actual physical machine. Let's talk a little bit about the technology behind it, and this is kind of where we get into something that I'm not really a big fan of. Everything on this drill is controlled through a Topcon X35 monitor, and initially, I'll just admit, I don't like the monitor, but that can be said by a lot of other monitors that I've tried. You know, initially I didn't like them. For me right now, there's nothing really intuitive about this monitor, whereas a lot of other monitors, I can kind of muddle my way through and then figure it out and then kind of get a feel about where everything is located at on the monitor and how to work it. I don't get that same feel with this Topcon. Maybe in time I will, and maybe my opinion of this monitor will change after running it over, 1,100 acres. But right now it's just not intuitive, and it's really hard for me to navigate to find what I want. And a big problem is you got all these icons here, and I don't like icons that don't have a label. You know, now like this icon here, wrench. I mean, now that's probably going to be settings. That's pretty easy to decipher. This one above there, I don't really know what that is. I mean, this is going to be air seeder, but like a lot of these, like I know that one's going to be GPS. A lot of this other stuff, it's not intuitive. You know, these right here. You know, when you got buttons on a monitor, I like to see labels so I don't have to decipher what the icon means. Like looking at this New Holland Pro 700. Oh, there's some glare here, but yeah, we got icons here, but you know, I know toolbox, diagnostic, I can quickly navigate and see what I want to. Now, a younger generation than me, you know, they might have a different opinion, but that's just my opinion. Especially when you're first trying to learn how to use a monitor, you know, deciphering a lot of it can be difficult, and that's one reason why I really don't like this monitor at this point. Again, that opinion might change. And you know, once we actually start plating stuff, I'll talk more about the monitor, about what we can actually see on the monitor. But you know, it's configurable. I mean, just about any piece of data you want to see and control, you can do it on the monitor. I just got to kind of figure out how. Now, looking beside that, we got this keypad here, and now we're getting into parts that's really unique. And I don't know if I'm gonna like it or if I'm gonna dislike it, but we'll see once we get to the field. But you got different buttons here that can be configured to do different things, such as add down pressure, take away ground pressure, increase your rate or decrease your rate. You know, you can configure these buttons to do a lot of different functions. But the big thing with this drill is that I've never seen anywhere else is once we get it unfolded in the field and set the drill down, technically we don't have to touch anything else until we get done with the field. All we've got to do is steer the tractor. You see this play button right here? You know what this does, this sets the drill down, and then you start planting, and when the drill comes to a part of the field that's already been planted, say you plant all of your boundaries first all the way around the field, and then you start going back and forth. When the drill detects that you got into some place that it's already planted, it automatically shuts off flow to your disc openers, and it will then raise your disc openers. You turn around, and then when you get so many seconds from going into some place you haven't planted, it will set your disc openers back down again. You don't have to manually raise or lower it or anything. Now, this drill doesn't have true sectional control. It's got full width automatic control, but not sectional control like your wings or stuff. Now, if you step up to the 40-foot model, you got sectional control on it where it shuts off individual towers like your wing, your center section, and stuff. Now, if you're doing the singulating part, because there's electric drive on those meters, you got row by row sectional control when you're running seed through when you got seed running through the singulators. So that pretty much covers, I give you a rough overview of the technology and stuff, and I'll speak a lot more about the operation of the monitor and the box and everything once we get to the field and I can really wrap my mind around it. But to the best of my understanding, that's a really rough idea of how it works. All right, well, I think that gives you a very rough overview of this machine, what its capabilities are, what its different configurations are, you know, what's actually possible with this machine. I'm really excited to try it. And like I said, a lot of my opinions, they're just initial opinions looking at the drill and how it's designed and how I think it might work. Once we actually get to the field and operate it, I'll be able to give you a lot better understanding of it. But after we're done with it for this season, I'll be doing another full-length video reviewing the drill, you know, addressing my initial concerns and likes with it, plus anything else that I discover about it. So definitely be sure to stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the side-by-side video of this drill versus our John Deere, seeing what the results are and everything. But you know, basically to sum everything up, what I like about it, I love the transport width, but I don't like the top heaviness. I don't like the massive tongue weight with the tractor that I'm running. Again, when you have benefits, sometimes you're gonna have drawbacks associated with those benefits. So after running it, I'll be able to let you know a little bit more about whether the benefits outweigh the negatives. I love the disc opener design. I love the angle. I think it's gonna do a great job of placing seed. I love the serviceability of everything being able to be lubricated, but I don't like the lack of accessibility getting over into the drill to either maintain it or repair it. I love all the different configurations we can do with in the products that we can run with different tanks, how they can be configured, you know, putting in furrow fertilizer, banding your side fertilizer, potentially doing liquid. I love the calibration feature on that. I think that's going to be super easy and super quick. I like the ability to be able to singulate different crops, corn, soybeans, sunflower, maybe even cotton. You know, for some farmers, this could be a complete do-it-all machine for seeding grains, and also for singulating, you know, other cash crops such as sunflower, soybeans, corn, and maybe even cotton, which I think they're working on. So no need to have really expensive planter and really expensive air seeders. This machine could potentially do it all. So where I really think that this machine could very well fit in good is with a farmer that maybe not in a super high yield environment, you know, maybe a little bit more drier environment, you know, Texas, Kansas, or, you know, maybe parts of Alabama and Georgia, you know, that's not shooting for the moon on corn. And you can, but they also like cover crops. They also like small grains, you know, wheat, barley, oats, triticale, crops like that. Maybe, maybe some canola, but they want to dabble in some soybeans. They want to dabble in some sunflowers, cotton, or corn. This machine could potentially do it all. I don't know how well the seed placement would be like on corn seed, where you've got to be extremely precise. What Bourgualt tells me is that they can see about 97 to 98% singulation, which is not going to be quite as good as what we see through our precision planting equipment. But if you're not shooting for the moon on yields in an extremely high yield environment, that could be a very viable alternative to plant corn. Now, as we know, sunflowers, cotton, soybeans don't have to be placed near as precisely, and I think this thing could potentially be fantastic for that. Now for the big question that probably a lot of folks are wondering, what's this sucker cost right here? Well, I mean, that's going to depend on your dealer and rebates, and you know how all that stuff works. But for this model with this with the mid-row banders, the singulator parts and everything, the way it's configured now, you're probably going to be looking in the ballpark somewhere around $350,000 brand new. I don't know what the resale on these things are. You know, there's nothing like this in this part of the country, but you know, brand new, you're probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $350 plus or minus some. So, and you know, that price tag is going to put it out of the league of a whole lot of farmers such as myself. While I may love this air seeder, you know, I'm not going to be able to afford a new air seeder. If there were used ones, then I consider it, depending on how well I'm going to like running this one. But you know, new for our operation is most definitely going to be out of the question. But I'm extremely grateful to Bourgualt to give me the opportunity to run this thing, to test it out for them, see how it works in our conditions, and I am so excited to get to the field and load up with seed, which is what we're just about to do. So we're about to get this thing dirty. We're about to get the paint rubbed off the disc openers and put this thing to the test. So you're not going to see that on this video. You'll have to wait a few days, but it'll definitely be on the next video. So y'all be sure to stay tuned. Appreciate y'all watching, and we'll get to see this thing in action in the next video.